The night had the kind of silence that made even small sounds feel suspicious, which was probably why he noticed the smoke before he understood it. At first, he thought it was just someone burning trash illegally again, the kind of minor crime that annoyed him far more than it should. But then the glow appeared beyond the trees, pulsing faintly like something trying and failing to pretend it was a fire. He stopped walking. "Nope," he muttered to himself, already turning halfway back. "Not my problem. I am a man who avoids glowing forest incidents." Something crackled, not like wood snapping in a fire, but sharper, metallic, like a machine arguing with itself. He sighed. "I hate that I'm going to regret being a decent human being." By the time he pushed through the brush, he had already prepared several explanations to tell the police, none of which included aliens, glowing debris, or his own terrible decision-making. The clearing opened suddenly, and whatever he had expected, it wasn't this. The ground was scorched in a perfect circle. In the center lay fragments of something smooth and curved, reflecting light in ways metal shouldn't. And there, half hidden among the wreckage, was a woman. "Okay," he whispered, hands raised as if surrendering to the situation itself. "Good news, not a trash fire. Bad news, everything else." She moved. That was enough to override the part of his brain still suggesting a strategic retreat. He stepped closer, careful, as though the ground might object. Hey, don't move too much, He stopped. Her face was human. Not just similar, human in a way that made his thoughts stumble. But as she turned slightly, something shifted the illusion. Her ears, long and elegant, curved back subtly, catching the dim light like sculpted glass. "Not from around here," he finished weakly. Her eyes found him, sharp despite the obvious pain. She said something soft, urgent, but it wasn't any language he knew. "Right," he nodded, crouching beside her. "That's fair. I barely speak my own language under pressure, so this feels like a big ask." He pulled out his phone with a confidence that was entirely undeserved. "Technology will save us. It always does. Except when it doesn't, which is often, but let's stay optimistic." He opened a translation app and held it toward her. She spoke again, slower this time. The phone processed. Then, in a cheerful automated voice, it announced, "I require your legal soul." He blinked. "You know what, I think that one's on the app." She frowned faintly, then reached for his wrist. Her grip was surprisingly strong for someone who looked like she had just fallen out of the sky, possibly because she had. "Okay," he said quickly. "Consent is important, mysterious glowing forest lady." But she wasn't pulling him closer. She was examining him. Her fingers brushed his skin, and for a brief second, something flickered beneath the surface, like light moving through glass. He stared. "That's new, that's very new." She released him, her expression shifting into something calmer, more focused. Then she spoke again, quieter, almost certain. The phone tried once more. "Bond acknowledged, claim stabilized." He laughed, a short, nervous sound. "Great, love that for me. No idea what it means, but I'm sure it's nothing life-altering." Behind them, one of the metallic fragments let out a soft, dying hum, as if disagreeing. By the time he got her into his apartment, he had already decided this was the kind of situation that required very specific denial. Not full denial. That would be irresponsible. But a controlled, strategic version where he simply refused to think too hard about anything with glowing edges or legal implications involving his soul. "Welcome," he said, nudging the door shut with his foot, "to the least prepared place on earth for whatever this is." She stood in the middle of the room, steady now, her earlier weakness fading in a way that made him uncomfortable for reasons he couldn't quite explain. Her eyes moved across everything, the walls, the furniture, the flickering light bulb in the corner, as if she were cataloging it all at once. "Please don't judge the decor," he added. "I had a phase where I thought minimalism meant owning fewer things because I forgot to buy them." She ignored the joke, stepping closer to a small table where his phone lay. The screen lit up as her fingers hovered above it, not touching, just near. The device flickered, then unlocked itself. He froze. "No, absolutely not. That has a password, a very strong one. It's not strong, but it's mine." She tilted her head slightly, then tapped the screen once. The translation app opened without hesitation. "I don't like that you're better at my phone than I am," he said carefully. She spoke again, her voice clearer now, more controlled. The phone responded, "Environmental stability, acceptable. Structural integrity, insufficient." He glanced around his apartment. "Wow, rude but fair." She moved past him. her long ears catching the light again as she crouched near a broken lamp he had been meaning to fix for months. With a small, precise motion, she touched the exposed wiring. "Please don't electrocute yourself," he said. "I just got used to the idea of one alien in my life. I don't think I can handle explaining two." A faint pulse of light traveled from her fingertips into the lamp. There was a soft click. The bulb flickered, then steadied into a warm, constant glow. He stared at it, then at her, then back at the lamp. "I'm sorry," he said slowly. "Have you been judging me this entire time for not knowing how to fix that?" She stood, brushing her hands together, as if she had done something trivial. "Primitive systems," the phone translated almost dismissively. "Easily corrected." He crossed his arms. "I was going to fix it. Eventually, it was part of my long-term character development." She turned toward him, studying his face again with that same unsettling focus as before. It wasn't curiosity anymore. It felt measured. "Okay," he said, taking a small step back. That's new. I don't know what that means, and I'm not sure I want to." She spoke slower this time, deliberate. The phone processed. "Biological signature confirmed, bond active." He pointed at the phone. "There it is again, that word, bond. I don't like that word. That word feels expensive." She stepped closer. He raised a hand. "Let's establish some boundaries. 1, no more touching unless absolutely necessary. 2, no more sentences that sound like contracts. And 3, she reached out and placed her hand against his chest. He stopped talking. For a moment, nothing happened. Then that same faint light flickered beneath his skin, sharper this time, spreading outward like a ripple. He felt it warm, not painful, but undeniably there, as if something had just recognized him. He swallowed. "I'm starting to think this isn't a language problem." She looked up at him, her expression calm, certain. The phone spoke one last time, clear and unwavering. "Claim irreversible." He let out a slow breath. "Of course it is," he murmured. "Why wouldn't it be?" He didn't sleep, not because he was afraid, though that was definitely part of it, but because every time he closed his eyes, he could still feel that faint warmth in his chest, like something had quietly rearranged the rules of his existence without asking for permission. "So," he said at some point in the early morning, staring at the ceiling, "hypothetically, if someone didn't agree to being claimed," he gestured vaguely, "what would be the return policy on that?" She was standing by the window, watching the sky as if expecting it to do something interesting. "No return," the phone translated simply. "Of course," he muttered. "Figures. I can't even return a shirt without a receipt, and now I'm apparently in an interstellar contract." The air shifted. It wasn't dramatic at first, just a subtle pressure, like the atmosphere itself had paused to take a breath. Then the lights flickered, not like before, not electrical, but something deeper, like reality blinking. She straightened. "Please tell me that's normal," he said. "No," the phone replied. "Great, love the honesty." A low hum spread through the room, the same tone he had heard in the forest, but stronger now. The window darkened, not from outside, but as if something massive had passed between them and the sky. He walked closer, slowly. "Okay," he whispered. "I'm going to look, and I'm hoping it's just a very large bird. A very, very large." It was. Above the city, silent and impossibly vast, a shape hovered, smooth, curved, and faintly glowing, like the wreckage he had seen, only whole. It seemed less like a ship and more like a decision that had already been made. "I preferred my life when my biggest problem was my broken lamp," he said quietly. She turned to him, calm but focused. Not distant anymore, present. "They have come," the phone translated. "Right, of course they have. Why wouldn't they come? You don't just crash land, get saved by a random guy, and then not follow up with a fleet. That would be rude." The hum deepened. Something within him responded, not fear this time, but that same warmth, steady and certain. He looked at her, really looked. "You knew this would happen." A pause, then yes. "And you didn't tell me because." "You would not have stayed," the phone said. He opened his mouth to argue, closed it, then laughed, softer this time. "Okay, fair." For a moment, neither of them moved. The world outside felt distant, like it belonged to someone else now. He exhaled. "So what happens now? They take you back, erase my memory, and I go back to arguing with appliances." She stepped closer, her expression shifting. Not command, not distance, but something quieter. "You are part of this," the phone translated. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, I was afraid you'd say that." The warmth in his chest pulsed again, stronger now, not foreign anymore. Familiar. He looked back at the sky, at the impossible shape waiting above everything he had ever known. Then he shrugged, a small, almost amused gesture. You know, he said, I always thought if my life changed, it would be because I made some big, important decision. He glanced at her. Turns out I just had to stop walking away. For the first time, she smiled, subtle but real. The hum outside softened, as if something had acknowledged the moment. He took a step forward, then another. All right, he said, rolling his shoulders like he was about to do something mildly inconvenient instead of completely life-altering. Let's go meet the people who think they can just show up and claim things without explaining the terms properly. A faint light gathered around them, gentle but undeniable. He hesitated for half a second, then added, and just so we're clear, if this turns into a ceremony or something, I'm going to need at least a basic rundown. I don't want to accidentally agree to anything else. The light brightened. Her hand found his, not forceful this time, but steady. Together, they stepped forward as the world shifted to meet them, and for once, he didn't think about turning back. The light didn't feel like movement. It felt like being understood and relocated at the same time, which he decided was deeply unfair for something that didn't even bother to explain itself first. 1 second, his apartment still existed behind him. The next, it didn't. He stood on a surface that looked solid but carried a faint, shifting glow beneath it, like light had been taught to behave. The air was cleaner, thinner, almost too precise. Around them, vast curved structures stretched upward without visible support, humming quietly with a rhythm that matched the pulse in his chest. Okay, he said, hands on his hips. I'm officially out of my depth. This is not a place where I can fix things by unplugging them and plugging them back in. Figures moved in the distance. Tall, composed, their silhouettes similar to hers, long ears marking them unmistakably. They stopped when they noticed him. Not her, him. He leaned slightly toward her. I don't like the way they're looking at me. That feels important. They are observing the bond, the phone translated calmly. Right, of course they are. Why wouldn't strangers from another world evaluate my life choices? The nearest of them approached, steps soundless. There was no hostility, no visible threat, just an overwhelming sense of certainty, like they had already decided something long before he arrived. The figure spoke. The air itself seemed to carry the meaning this time, bypassing the phone entirely. Claim verified, survival act confirmed, binding law upheld. He raised a hand. Okay, before anyone signs anything else on my behalf, I would just like to say, this was not a fully informed decision. A pause, then unexpectedly, a ripple passed through the gathered figures. Not quite laughter, but close enough that he recognized it. He blinked. Did I just make an alien council laugh? Because that feels like a personal achievement. The figure continued, tone unchanged. Choice is not required. Action defines the bond. He exhaled slowly. Yeah, I was afraid you'd say something like that. Silence settled again, but it wasn't heavy. It was waiting. He looked at her, not as a problem, not as a mystery. As someone who had trusted him without asking. You knew I'd have to come here, he said quietly. Yes, and you still let me decide to stay. A small pause. Yes. He nodded once, more to himself than to her. All right, he said, turning back to the others. Then I guess I should stop pretending I'm just visiting. The warmth in his chest steadied, no longer unfamiliar, no longer something happening to him. Something he carried. What exactly does this bond mean? He asked. And before you answer, please try to avoid phrases like irreversible or eternal. I've had enough of those. A faint shift moved through the group again. Shared existence, the voice replied. Linked survival, mutual sovereignty. He frowned. That actually sounds less terrifying than I expected. She stepped closer, standing beside him, not ahead. Not ownership, she added, her voice clear even without translation. He glanced at her, surprised. That's new. I chose not to correct you before, she said. He stared for a moment. Then a slow smile appeared. So this whole time, I thought I was accidentally signed into some alien marriage contract, and really. You are bound, she interrupted. I was halfway right, he finished. Fantastic. Another ripple, definitely amusement this time. He looked around